Um, as I was described, and I am the head of a new unit, Cyber Technologies unit in the Prime Minister's office in the National Cyber Directorate. And I'm going to talk a little about the relationship between the government and the cyber industry and the cyber world. Can it be, is it possible to have a startup, a government, formal, official startup inside the government? And usually in the newspapers, when you see a headline with a question mark, the answer is usually no. So wait until the end and see if it's like in the media or different. A few words about the history of the cyber in Israel. You can go back until the early 90s with the launch of small vendors, startups like Checkpoint, now global giant, and then CyberArk and Imperva, now multinational, deals with have stocks in the Nasdaq and the New York exchanges, and other companies, mainly in the big boost of the mid-2000s. Today we have in Israel, I think almost, if not every major player in the cyber world, we have some representative of him, whether joint ventures, VCs, or other investments. This is, of course, a big crowd, but it must be kept and must be enhanced in order to stabilize, to maintain the economy, the right environment for more ideas, more innovation in the cyber world. Today we look at about 300 companies, cyber companies. We can call cyber companies. There are others that semi-cyber, that's a different lecture. A year ago, in the previous Cyber Week, the number was more close to 250, even less. This is the growth ratio of the market. You see the other numbers, but the coolest number, the proud we are in, is what Gartner called the cool vendors. In fact, just last weekend, another Israeli company, Acero, got the cool vendor from Gartner. 40% of all the cool vendors. It's impressive. We like to be cool in their criteria. It's innovative with a great idea. This is the map, and again, the slides are getting narrow and not large enough to have all of it, but it's not something that we should sit on our backs and feel fine about it. It must be kept all the time with the right tension in order to proceed and prepare and be more ready for cyber threats from all the kinds, and I'm going to talk about the kinds. Israeli ecosystem, you can describe it with these few factors. The security apparatus, I'm going to elaborate about that. Human factor, academia, industry, and technological infrastructure. This is the national empowerment I'm going to talk about, of how we deal with it and how we try to get more startups in this mention. But you cannot talk about cyber without talking about cyber technology, which can be described with three elements. First is the knowledge. Knowledge in the academia, physical infrastructure, I'm going to talk about the logos, and human capital. This is cyber technology. Once we understand that and agree about it, we can elaborate and move on with the discussion, because technology is not just about bits and bytes. It's not just about how to write a code and to run it and computing configuration. It's all this ecosystem. It's all combination of this. And if one of the legs are too short or too weak, then you cripple and at the end fall down. Thank you for the call. We in the Prime Minister's office, in the INCD, we invest in all of this. I'm going to show it a little more. This is the new unit. It's based on an ongoing, not traditional, but it's 3-4 years old, only 3-4 years old, but ongoing operations and many more new ones. The main goal is simply to strengthen Israel as a key player in the cyber technology world, in the world, as a global player. National capacity build-up, it's come from strategy through empowerment of the ecosystem through concepts and practical working solutions, cyber solutions, through being the main technological unit for the NCSA, the National Cyber Security Authority, and as a whole, a knowledge center of the cyber technology in Israel. This can describe what the city, how the city works. Very shortly, 4 elements. First one, the CTO. Second, the R&D. And third, the projects, all combined together. It's one process that have interrelations between one another. And the fourth one combines it all. We call it the national empowerment. It's how to help the industry and how to deal with the human capital and have more Israeli workforce or R&D power in order to achieve all the first slides I showed in the beginning. How we do that? First, we have a few research centers. In fact, in all the big 6 universities, we have ongoing for about 2 or 3 years already. We spend a lot of money in Israeli terms in order to have a prosper and relevant, serious research centers. They have a free academia spirit. They can do whatever they want. We also challenge them with what the government, with what the government sees as more important. But if they have their own ideas, that's okay. Many of them are left on the floor. The few that are relevant are collected and kept and move on to the next phase. For example, this is, by the way, this is the technological facilities. These are examples, a very, very short list of what we deal with, just for example. And I challenge you, if you from Israel or abroad have ideas, have a subject that you want research center to deal with, you can approach us, and together we are funding them. They also fund themselves. We have some mechanism, but it works. And the most important, more and more students are coming and getting there and begin their way in the cyber. Not all of them, many of them haven't served in the military cyber units, so we gain more than we had at the beginning. Why government? Why on earth the government should interfere and deal in the first place with the cyber industry, with cyber academia? Well, first of all, it's a question, and we can debate about it. But in my opinion, and as Guy described me, I'm new to this job. Until recently, I was finished almost 30 years of service in the security forces, mainly in the Shin Bet. All of them in the SIGINT, before it called cyber, and now in the cyber world. And I know it from the government side. I know where the government needs things and doesn't get it from the private sector. And the government is not only the security forces, it's everyone. It's the power grid, it's the water, it's telecom. They don't get enough from the industry because there are walls. So the government, what the government should do? First of all, the government can offer an exposure to open the door mainly for foreigners inside, like this conference, with sponsor. And in abroad, we're working with the Export Institution, in the Commerce Ministry, and others. We have sponsorship for small-scale companies, startups, like a VC with the different goals, with different criteria, more easier ones. We don't look at the money at the end, we look at the relevancy. We look at the innovation side of the startups regarding to cyber, regarding what we think the state level needs. Next, usually we are looked as a regulator, but remember, any regulator has a deregulator button that should be only pressed on. And in the national security side of Israel, the main sentiment is stop, it's a secret, don't get it out of the closed room and bunkers of the A200, of the Mossad, of the Shin Bet. As a government who oversees all of the aspects, we can deregulate and say, okay, this was a secret, but it's no more a secret. This can be turned into less secret thing, and then you can deregulate it, you can open it for industries and get more. Unique government knowledge, intelligence, for example. We, the government, have a close surveillance on cyber opponents from all the kinds. And remember, everything begins with the human factor. It's not computers attacking computers, even tonight. There's some guy, or guys, or girls behind it. So how to understand is something the government does with a lot of funding. Some of it can be deployed, can be given to the private sector. A large customer, maybe the largest one still, and few other aspects. We have a strategic view. We don't deal with startup do. We look at the state level. We have the whole puzzle in front of us. We look for the pieces, and we don't have enough pieces. So we can direct, we can fund the right pieces we wish for. A state level holistic challenges, something that aren't enough in today's Israel market. And the monopoly on the what's called attacks. There is a common distinction between the defense and the attacks. Well, I can say that most of my career I wasn't on the defense side, and say no more about it. And there's no really distinction. But the monopoly of attacks is on the state, on the nations. And the combination, defender-attacker, happens only in the government. And the know-how of it takes one to know one, of the defender-attacker and vice versa, is something that the government have and may and should and can let out, again, on a monitored, on the right scale, to the open industry. Intelligence. This is, from my point of view, a few of the reasons why I think we should have the government on the right level, not regulator, not anything more than what I showed. What we do in the CTU in order to achieve part of this. These are the main subjects. I won't go through all of it, but a few examples I want to show here. And this one, the state level holistic concept, I tell you bluntly, directly, we don't have it yet. We have ideas. We are now on a formulation of this holistic concept. Again, we have pieces of the puzzle. We have ideas of which puzzle, what puzzle, and how many pieces. But we are now in a process with the NCSA, the national authority, in order to have implementation, a working concept. On the government backbone, Rafael is actually about to complete a big project of building the CERT, the Israeli CERT in Beersheba, state-of-the-art CERT. Whoever can arrange a visit there, I recommend warmly. We have a government SOC, and in his lecture, the Prime Minister, on the day one of the conference, mentioned the Cybernet, a national network of sharing information, relevant information between SOCs, between other agencies. We have already about 200, 250 endpoints in different agencies and semi-government and government sharing information. But what we're proud of mostly is that one, last one. It's not a techie, it's not a tool, but it's a procedure. It's a fast lane for cybersecurity platforms for governmental procurement. Whoever have experience with the government bidding process is reluctant to try it again. And I don't blame him. I'm now getting more familiar with this. So what we manage, and I'm sorry for the Hebrew, it's still now only Hebrew, we in these days are launching the Meteor program, which is a fast lane, almost bypassing the traditional ways. We publish these challenges, few real ones, it's not a demo, real challenges from any government agency there is, and they're putting the challenges, and anyone, small, big, or large vendor who wants to step in, to have a foot in the door, can bid or can go, not bidding, go and automatically get some funding, small but nice amount of money and show a POC. If the POC works well, then he jumps to a much higher step in the procurement process. He skips all the traditional ways because he has an entrance. He showed his product is innovative, his idea, anything. If it meets the challenge with a few criterias, all are written here, you can jump in, and that's a big thing because we believe, after surveys and many talks with the industry, we believe that can open really the market, and there's a demand from the government agency to have this, not only from the private sector. So this is the Meteor. On the state level projects, I won't go through all of it. I'll focus on the last one, the secure information sharing techniques. We developed with one of the universities a unique thing that can, with a multiple computing, multi-point computing for sharing sensitive information that can be deployed and overreach much wider networks and players than the usual traditional ways, and it's already working. Another ongoing project is what we call rating. Rating comes to solve one of the major problems of this market. How the hell can we measure the outcome? We know to measure the input. How we measure the output, the relevance of what we do, what we put in cybersecurity resources. This we measure, we focus on the readiness level, not on the operational level, not on the compliance level. There are other solutions for this. We have a formula, this is a very simplified formula, to measure it, and I am glad to say we have already double-digit vendors that are trying and building and coming with the products that can be adapted and meet with this formula. And then we can offer the government, but of course the private sector, with a real tool to solve this gap. Another last example, how we can secure the individual's transactions. Transactions can be with anyone, individuals with the retailers, with the government, with the banking, anything that you can imagine of transaction. Today we all suffer, even tonight, we suffer from intervention, from men in the middle, from manipulation in this, and we all see the billions of dollars that stolen, and many individuals losing faith in this way of making transactions, which hardens the free economy. What we developed is with the two major, one of them I can tell here, Intel, with the two major, like Intel, global-wide providers, vendors, a solution that is agnostic to telecom providers, to the means of telecommunication, agnostic to almost everything. And with the ID provider, national or private provider, that should be launched, and we're working on this with the other regulators, we can have a proven ID, personal proven ID, not biometric, not all the going there and working. It can be from your own home with a camera or with other tricks we are now about to launch. We can establish a tunnel, a secure tunnel, only for transactions to anyone that shares the same patent, the same technology. It comes from the government of Israel, and we want to spread it all over Israeli governmental agencies and others. But of course, with such a global vendors, we're looking for an international solution and standardization of it. Another is the national cyber robustness. We have a couple of different levels of maturity of programs and projects. And last is the human capital development. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's not only about bits and bytes, it's about knowledge and who carries the knowledge, who generate the knowledge, who are the human, the people at the end. Our mission is to empower the human capital in the cyberspace of Israel. The numbers are state secret, but I can tell you it's much, much lower and too short of what we need. And what we need is growing rapidly. So the shortage is even getting bigger and wider. What we do here in a couple of slides is starting in the middle school, going through the high school, we offer from about 9th grade or the 10th grade, we offer not only the computers lab, but cyber programs who combine not only the traditional education system, but also volunteers from the security forces, from academia, who goes freshly from the field, coming to assist the teachers, coming to have a personal connection with the kids. And I can tell you from my own experience, my older son is 15 years old, he's excellent in mathematics, and is looking for something interesting. And in school, he gets the more traditional computers and mathematics, but he looks for cool things. Remember the cool vendors. Cyber is connected with coolness, correctly, by the way. So we need, as a government, to give them the opportunities. But in these early stages, the ethical thing is about 30% of the program. We want them to grow correctly and not like, I won't say any name of states, because I'm a government official, but you know what I mean. Military service, the great melting pot of Israel, where everyone goes there, and who is good enough comes to the cyber units and then gets license to do whatever governments do, according to foreign media. After they go out, we invest in the academia and professional training, but for two major purposes. One is, of course, cybersecurity workforce, but it's not enough. We invest in cybersecurity R&D roles in the cyber industry, in the academia back, in order to generate more generations. This is examples of the program. Just I will skip it just for getting impression. The names of some of the programs we have. I'll skip to the last slide. A few of what I see as the main challenges we face overall and specific in the CTU and the Cyber Technologies Unit. The counter CNI, the influence thing. I just heard an American ex-official, by the way, now here in the conference, saying that for his opinion, no Russian intervention was in the US elections. It didn't, no vote changed because of Russian direct interference. The word direct is the important thing. Yes, they probably didn't manipulated the voting, the polling machines. They did much worse, according to the FBI. They manipulated the public opinion. They manipulated the way of people, how people think about this candidate or that candidate. And they did it by cyber means, because they hacked the private emails of the Democratic National Committee, and they did other stuff. Again, according to the FBI, it's not something I faced myself, but this is something that liberal democracy should be aware of and get the tools, the right tools for it. Criminal national, Guy described it better than me, so I'll skip it. What is it? The government, national security forces should do it with the police. Where does it fall? If we don't know where, nobody deals with it, trust me. Or every agency has its enough headaches without taking care of it. And the bad guys are using it. Phishing, fake ID, the human factor is and will remain the main problem of the cybersecurity world. All we're doing, artificial intelligence, all the ideas mainly are to protect ourselves from ourselves. And that's, I hope that the physiology and biology won't change too rapidly like the cyber, but we must have better tools and means. All the data in big piles, it's not anymore on the government side, it's any private sector, not even Google. Insurance company, others have all the information that bad guys need. We need to see how we protect it without too regulated, too higher walls, and so on. IoT, everything online, it must be taken care of, and it's rapidly going. I think here you'll find the air condition and other stuff, maybe even this connected something with other thing, and can be hacked and abused. And last, recycle. The national cyber weapons leakage, I think last night example is well-timed with my lecture, is another example of what I'm talking about. The acceleration of the cyber arms race. This is the story. It's going and running too fast, and as a government, as a whole society, but the government has important role to see how all the forces I showed in the beginning, all the ecosystems is aligned towards dealing with this problem. Thank you very much.